okay, I'm in a lot of pressure now. But I think it's easy to say many good things about Mikey. The one thing that stands out to me is what a great sportsman he was. I think our class won half the tournaments we won because of him. And I used to play volleyball, and Mikey had no clue how to play volleyball. But I think we won half the games because of him. So Mikey, we miss you.
Yeah, so just my memories of Mikey, not anything in particular, but so one is I remember Mikey's walk. He used to have this strut, you know, like he had a bounce in his walk, and I think he brought that bounce to so many things that he did, whether it was him playing the guitar, and he would, you know, I remember Himalaya Hostel, like the first day he'd sit on the steps, and he'd play some song about a girl. I can't remember the name.
One song.
Yeah, we should keep playing that song again and again.
He used to play White Lion.
Wow, White Lion as well.
Correct, White Lion.
And then, you know, I think most interaction Mikey's been on the sports fields. For me, mostly basketball. And man, Mikey would jump and he would just stay in the air. Like that guy was magical, and he had so much heart. He had so much heart, and on the other side, one word could really just spark him off, you know. So you saw two sides of Mikey, right? In the sense of he would sometimes get really angry about things, but on the other side, he was fully there in terms of heart, and he'd give it his all.
So Michael was one of the first northeastern guys that I ever really came to know. Until I joined law school, I had only met people from Northeast, but he was the first Northeastern whom I really knew well, or got to know well eventually. I still remember in our first trimester, I think it was the second or the third week, and I don't remember what the trigger was, but there was a huge fight which involved Manu Love Shahali. I don't know what it was.
Yeah. Right.
And suddenly, just as Ritvik said, Mikey was not even involved, but suddenly somebody said some word and he immediately flipped. And then he went and he whacked the shit out of Manu. And mind you, Manu at that time was bulky and he used to work out, so Manu, for all his idiosyncrasies, was physically a fit chap. No, the point I'm just trying to make is that despite that side of Mikey, I think Michael was one of the sweetest guys that we ever came across. He had a very clean and a pure heart, and there is no denying that. I think he was one person who was liked by everybody. He was not an enemy or a foe of any person. All of us liked him, and there were many instances where the sweeter side of Mikey was on display, and I think that he was pure of heart. So it's unfortunate that we have lost him, but all that perhaps all of us can say is that Mikey, we miss you and rest in peace.
One thing that Mikey told me a lot about, which I never really got to see him do, was mountaineering. He was apparently a great mountaineer. We used to get up early in the morning, go for breakfast like at 7 in the morning, only me and him in the hostel. And he used to tell me stories about climbing solo, climbing with partners who went mad from snow blindness. He thought he saw a ghost at some point on the Himalayas, but that's a different thing. But he was a guy who had things going on even beyond law school that not many of us knew. And he was a man of many facets. He just wasn't the Mikey that we saw. I wish I had known him better.
So my first memory of Mikey is actually being beaten up by him. I think it was second week of law school, and he used to room with Ankit, and I used to hang out in that.
And me.
Yeah, and I think Vinay Arvind wasn't there, and I don't want to say what I said in Vinay's cubicle. But so Ankit and I were troubling Mikey, and I think like the sincere guy that he had already started doing the reading materials back to from front to the end, and Ankit and I would just poke him or just hit him on the back and just run out of his cubicle, and then we did that for 5 minutes, and went back in, and suddenly I was about 2 or 3 feet above the ground. Mikey had had held me by his neck and pinned me up against the wall. So of course, taught me a very important lesson to stay away, not to irritate Mikey. Of course, that evening he came to my room and said sorry, and of course, from there on I realized that you don't screw around with Mikey. The last thing I remember was in the 5th year in the hockey match. I think I was brought onto a team only to foul the other guys, and one of those incidents turned ugly, and I would have almost got beaten up had Mikey not come in the middle and fought with some of the guys. So yeah, Mikey was like all heart, as in he was a friend to the core and would back you up whenever you needed it. We miss you, man.
My memories of Mikey are a bit different. I mean, of course, I do remember his wild side, his nice side, and how he would always stand by you whenever he felt that he needed to be there for you. But there was a time when Mikey had moved out of hostel. He was right in the street nearby. He had moved in with his girlfriend, and he would invite us often over for dinner or drinks or something or the other. And that's how I got to spend more time with Mikey and see a very different side of him. I got to see Mikey a little bit of a family man, even in those days. And it was a very different experience that I had. We would play all pranks. I remember, he would bring, we once brought condoms and he blew it up and he hung it over the fan of Ankit, thinking that Ankit would think of it as a balloon. And that actually happened. Of course, nobody had a clue that they were condoms, but we played around with them like they were balloons. So that was the wild side of Mikey, the childish side of Mikey, the fun side of Mikey that I'd like for everybody to know. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I think it was the beginning of second year when Mikey went through this whole heavy metal phase. So Manowar, exactly. So he got these leather pants which he wore every day for like an entire trimester, and he got into I don't know how he found it. So basically he was one of the first guys in our batch who had a laptop. So there was, I think Bangya and Mikey both had laptops when nobody else did. So he had his Apple laptop, which he would sit in the library, and he was basically the only person using the entire college's internet connection. So he downloaded a lot of music by this band called Manowar, which is like the most camp band that you can ever find. They're like tight leather trousers and studs and chains and things like that. There was Manowar, and then there was this band called Wasp, which he would tell us a story about. Dude, the name of the band is We Are Sexual Perverts. We Are Sexual. And in one concert they got a bucket and they passed it around the audience, and the audience all spat in it, and then the lead singer, he drank it, dude. So anyway, so he loved Manowar and he loved Wasp and all this stuff, and all of us knew like a little bit about music, but we had no idea about metal. So I remember we had gone to Brigade Road, generally shopping for music or whatever, and we're like, dude, Mikey's been talking about all this metal shit. Let's go and find some random band which nobody's ever heard of. And let's go and tell Mikey, man, you have to listen to this band. So we found a band called Saxon, which we thought was like an obscure band, but is actually a very well-known band. We came back and said, dude, Mikey, you should listen to Saxon, man. That's the best band in the world. And Mikey was like, yeah, I will, etc. And anyway, so that's not a very, it doesn't have a punchline, but there's a story about Mikey. The other story, like everyone else was saying, basically, I wasn't there, but I've heard, eyewitness accounts of this. But again, Mikey used to go on into these moods where he didn't really want to talk to anyone, and he would be sitting quietly in his cubicle. So he was lying in his bed in his cubicle, and Sri, for some reason, decided to go jump in and bounce up and down on the bed and say, hey, Mikey, what the fuck, man, Mikey, come on, man, Mikey. And all of that happened. Mikey was obviously pissed off, and Sri went out of the room, out of the cubicle. He was standing in the room, and Mikey 5 minutes later walks out, punches Sri, and walks back into his cubicle. So yeah, that's the other side of Mikey as well.
I wasn't staying in a hostel, so I don't have anecdotes that most of you guys might have. Most of my remembrances or memories are of him in the Acad block. But I think after I heard this news, I just checked him on the website, and there was a profile of his as a judge, and that's something I could never imagine Michael as a judge. You know? But I think he did it. I mean, he was the first judge from our batch, and at 26, and in Mizoram, I'm sure he would have been at least a High Court judge. So I feel bad that we lost. I mean, in terms of, I'm a regular practitioner, so that's a loss. But if on the funnier side, I mean, I remember him in the class in Shankar Reddy's Viva was saying. I mean, racism apart. I mean, I saw him suffer perhaps racist discrimination, I thought, or northeastern discrimination. But he was also funny because he would come in his leather jacket for the Viva, and my Viva was after his. So he came into the class. He took out his jacket, put it on the chair, and there's Shankar Reddy sitting in front, and he's sitting on the CPC class. And believe you me, he actually had his leg on his leg, and he was sitting for the Viva. Then he asked a couple of questions. Shankar Reddy, in his usual tone and tenor, asked him a couple of questions. And Shankar Reddy couldn't understand a thing about what he was saying. So finally he said, "Where are you from?" So that was racist, you know. He said, "I'm from so-and-so place." He said, "Do you have CPC there?" Then, I mean, it was funny. I know there is racism about it, but I thought it was funny. At least the way in which he, came into the class, not even stealthily, but royally, and took out his leather jacket and put it on the chair in Shankar Reddy's class was kind of a middle. Was really, it showed some attitude, which was, I think, we were all scared of him. I mean, at least I started studying law because of Shankar Reddy, so I was scared of him. But Mikey wasn't. So yeah, I think it's a loss. It's a great loss.
Okay, so I came to law school and Michael was my roommate, and he told me so many stories when I landed up, and I was just so intimidated of this guy. He told me how he had gotten into Yale and Harvard and all. He decided to chuck all that. He come to National Law School. Then he told me how he had acres and acres of teak farms of his own back home, and how he used to ride horses and climb mountains. And he told me that he used to date Riya Sen until he found out she was lesbian. I swear, he told me this. And I thought this guy was some kind of god, because he does all these things, and yeah, and I mean, like everybody else has been saying, he's had a heart of gold, absolutely. I've seen him climb up like drain pipes and all to to rescue some animal or something like that. Yeah. He's 100% all heart. He was one of the nicest guys you could ever meet, and I really miss him. I really miss him.
My only fond memory of Mikey is, well, the most fond one is VP Singh once telling me the two most beautiful things he's seen in his life were Nisha Oberoi and Mikey Silo's legs. That's all.
That's it,
we miss you, Mikey. Yes.
My first memory of Mikey is from our very first day at law school. It was on the day of our... What do you want me to do? Louder. Okay, my first memory of Mikey is from our first day at law school, when we came in for the admissions interview process or whatever it was. And I think as I remember him then, it's probably my last memory as well, which was of a very smiling, friendly person, very cheerful disposition. I don't think we spoke as much as we should have during the 5 years we were together, but I remember Mikey as really enthusiastic for the things he loved, his music. Also remember him as the most stylish guy amongst our batch, and I think he was just really, chilled out. He was unperturbed by the hard times. I've never seen him, I've been hearing stories about how he was with the boys, but I think he was always very gentlemanly with the girls, and he was just a really, really nice guy. And in some ways, I still haven't internalized the loss, but you are missed and remembered very dearly.
Okay, so I think we'll go with some of Mikey's favorite expressions. We will all remember Mikey's iconic "guys were saying," which with he started every rumor possible. His orange Mac, which was like an object of desire for everyone in the first year. Then you want to have a fight. His, I think he had a Metallica sleeveless cutaway T-shirt which he wore for like a year non-stop, and above all, just a heart of gold. So, rest in peace, Mikey.
And the one story that needs to be told is Nikhil Mehra came to interact with Mikey, me, and Sumant in our room. First year, I think first week or something. And so Sumant and me spoke to Mehra for 2 minutes. Okay, then Mikey came. Mehra said, "So, what's up?" So Mikey listened to him for precisely 10 seconds. Says, "Hey Mehra, you want to have it out in the quad right now?" And Mehra fled and went to Limondi. Then Lee, Mikey's threatening me. So Lee tells Mehra, "Who wants you to go to her?" So that was the kind of guy he was. Unafraid of anything. Didn't care. So stay blessed.
And you just heard Atish telling you this Mikey story, and yet he was one of the kindest, gentlest souls you could ever meet. The guy was one of the most generous people you could meet. He would never say no if you wanted something, and in those days 10 rupees was a big amount. So no matter what he had, you could ask him for it and he would give it to you. You wanted help before an exam. If he knew something, he would tell you. If he had notes, he would share them. So we miss Mikey.
So Michael, was one of the friendliest guys and one of the guys who was most fun to be with. So I can just recall, one of the things that Michael and I used to do together in law school, which was like post-class got over, we'd go down to the ice cream shop in Nagar Bhavi and eat an ice cream every day. So that is the famous ice cream club which we founded, and which had other members like Shom also. And ritually we'd go and the ice cream that we'd always have was a raspberry dolly, which would somehow really delight Michael, and he'd say the name over and over again, like raspberry dolly. So yeah, and people like Rahul Sharma used to beg to get into that club, but they weren't allowed because of bad behavior, which Michael had somehow determined. So so I really miss having that ice cream with Michael.
Well, Michael Silo, what do I say? This is a guy whose stories I thought were tall till the time that the orange MacBook arrived, and suddenly they all seemed true. Remember the guy who does crazy push-ups? He was the guy who would jump around, he would be ready to pick a fight, and I think for a friend he would do anything. So remember him fondly. Sad what happened. I hope wherever he is, he's happy.
Mikey, one of the best sportsmen ever to be in law school. Amazing athlete, amazing friend. Motivated us to win every sport, even including basketball and volleyball, which we didn't have a good team. But outstanding guy and brilliant athlete and a very good friend. We miss you, man. Bye.
Okay, a lot of people must have said that Mikey is the greatest sports person who's ever played for law school. I've played football for God knows how many years, and I can for sure say that Mikey was the best defender I've ever seen. Mikey was a very gutsy guy as well, and there's one story where we were playing for university and we were playing in the finals against St. Joseph's College, and St. Joseph's College was losing, and St. Joseph's College guys were really hostile. Mikey was the only guy who showed them the middle finger in St. Joseph's College and abused them in St. Joseph's College, and we ended up winning the match. So that's one of the best memories I've had of Mikey. Thanks.
Right. So Mikey, I hope you're sitting up there and watching us and smiling and laughing along with us. We spent 5 years together. Those 5 years were fabulous. We had a fabulous time together, but more importantly, I learned one thing from you. That was to stand up for the right, whatever you thought was right. You were a true braveheart. You always were there to support people, to even get into fisticuffs, to help people out of difficult situations. You were a true braveheart, and you stood by all your friends. So may you rest in peace and keep smiling on us while you look at us. Thanks.
So in our first year, I remember Michael Silo came up to us on the dinner table and said that he's going to get the new MacBook. MacBook, what is it called? iBook. And no one believed him. And everyone thought that this is another giant Mikey story, along with the other ones that his parents' marriage had saved one of the northeastern states from collapse. Right? When I'm looking at you, you don't know the story. Okay. So that was the other story. But 2 weeks later, suddenly there was this orange laptop in his room, on which I still remember he had stuck some kind of plastic covering to prevent people from damaging it, and then he had somehow also connected it to the he had some special dispensation to use it in the library, and it was really awesome laptop. The first time I ever saw an iBook, it was pretty awesome. Then there's another story where he punched me. I still don't remember why, but Apu, you say that he did, so I'm pretty sure he did. I must have irritated him, or he probably thought I was Manmeet. I don't know, one of the two. Sorry, Manmeet, I know you're seeing this. But it was probably because I was irritating him. Third thing, Michael Silo used to run really fast, so we did all those athletics. I remember Shaumitro, Tenzing, me, Shom, Apu, Sushma, and a couple others, and he used to keep training us. He tied those sandbags to my feet and made me run 500 meters, 4 times around this thing until my legs fell off. And then he said, well, that was for the sprinters, I just did it for fun. And then I remember I couldn't walk for the next 3 days. Those little Reebok sandbags. Shaumitro should remember that. Last story, the final basketball game that we won, we defeated Sulabh and those things. I remember Mikey and I were on the flanks. Apu, Ritvik.
I was not there.
No, you were not there. Then Rahul, I think everyone remembers that game, but I'll always remember Mikey on the field. Sometimes slightly drunk, but mostly always really cool.
We had these compulsory internships, right? Which we uniquely call it as placements here. In one of those placements, I think compulsory placement in the third year, we all had to do a compulsory trial placement, so it's in a trial court or with a trial judge. So after we did our placements, we came back and I asked Mikey, so where did you work, man? He said, Mizoram Pradesh Congress Committee. His uncle, I think, was a leader in Mizoram, a Congress leader, if I'm right. Or was the chief minister or the opposition leader, one of those. So his placement on the third year trial placement was with Mizoram Pradesh Congress Committee. So I can't forget that.
First year, in the first 2 weeks after I joined, I was like this local boy who had entered like a den of all these people from all over the country. And I was keeping to myself, and I had a single room which sort of made it easier for me to just be by myself. And I think Michael, being the warm guy, he tried to chat me up a few times and I must have just put him off. And then there was like a huge gap between the floor and the door. And one night he came in and slipped in a rat into my room, which ran up my like sort of half-naked leg and like really pissed me off. And then I thought like I can't do anything about it, and next day he comes up to me and he was laughing loudly and he just told me that he did it. And it's something about the way he did it that I just couldn't be angry with him, and I just said like, gave him a few bad words and just left it at that. So that's probably the effect he had, that you couldn't be angry with him even if you wanted to.
Somehow I don't have a special anecdote with Mikey. I mean that I can remember, but I've always seen him, and I always remember him as one of the purest and the nicest guy in the batch, who was very carefree and was not afraid of anything. And a few years after graduating, I heard that Mikey had become a judge, and I was surprised beyond my wits. I mean, I couldn't imagine Mikey sitting on a judge's chair and delivering judgments. But I was at the same time very proud and very happy about him, because he was one of those few guys who actually had the guts to go back to his state and go back where he came from and work there, because most of us, chose the glamorous world of corporate law and chose, nicer cities like Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, he was some guy who sort of amazed me, and I hoped that he would have, had he been alive, he would have been amongst the most successful lawyers, and somebody who could actually make a difference to people's lives. And yeah, I mean, rest in peace.